Hey, let's backpedal a few days. I haven't talked to you since Notre Dame picked up a verbal commitment from a really good looking tight end in the 2024 class, and that is Jack Larson. What can you tell us about Jack Larson?
He's an impressive player. At about 6'3", 215 to 220, more of a receiving tight end. I don't think that he has the genetics that he's going to be a 6'5", 6'6" tight end. I think he'll probably get to Notre Dame about 6'3", 6'4". This like how big he is. I mean, I don't know why that's a talking point when a kid's going into his junior year of high school. Like he's 220 right now. Okay, like get to Notre Dame at 230. Like why do we care about that? It's not a big deal. But the skills are impressive. He's definitely a receiving tight end. You put him in the slot, put him out wide. He's good enough blocking that you can have him as an inline player, but that's not his game. He excels as a route runner and as a receiver. Catches the ball very well. When we got to see him at Irish Invasion in early June, Jack Larson was fantastic. So, um, the rankings from site to site vary on him, but I mean, you watch the tape. I've seen him in person a couple times now, and the offer list, speaks for itself. Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan. Some big time schools were after him. So, yeah, Darin is just a really solid get for Notre Dame, and you need a receiving tight end to continue tight end you.
Mike, if you don't mind me going kind of a different direction with Larson, but we spent a lot of time talking about Notre Dame going toe to toe with Ohio State. There's been a lot of Notre Dame victories over Michigan recently, and there might be more on the way
Oh
in the
yeah.
coming days. We remember back to the battle between Notre Dame and Clemson for the running back Shipley. Is Notre Dame and Clemson, are they still crossing paths quite a bit in this 23-24 cycles?
Yeah, yeah. You had Larson, Monroe Freeling's a big offensive tackle, who both schools have been in contention for, but not. There's nothing jumping off the top of my head that's like Will Shipley, level of hyped up recruitment. But yeah, I would say Notre Dame, Clemson battling a good bit. I mean, yeah, I think just pretty much all the powerhouses the Fighting Irish have been battling it against, and that's certainly a good thing. And you mentioned Michigan. Goodness gracious. I wrote a column a few weeks ago. I think we discussed it on your show about, Notre Dame beating up on the Wolverines on the recruiting trail. I might have to refresh that column because it's really bad for Michigan right now versus Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's just cleaning up. And again, can we not devalue the fact? I don't care. Like, if you're a Michigan fan, how can you not be like ashamed about Michigan not landing CJ Carr, Lloyd Carr's grandson? That's crazy. I mean, what's is there, Darin? Is there like a Notre Dame comparison that you could give, like Lou Holt's grandson picking Michigan? Like that would be nuts, right?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. That's for
That's
sure.
that's what I
The
that's what I
closest
got off the
thing,
top of my head.
remember the tight end that went to Alabama, Irv Smith? His dad was a great tight end at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame never offered him. So still a little apples and oranges. But you're right. That's a major upset. And you look at the 24 class, which right now, it's early. It's number one in the country. There are two Michigan players in that particular class already.
Again, Carr from just outside of Ann Arbor, Brandon Davis Swain, a defensive lineman who the Irish got a commitment from in late April. Owen Wafel, a defensive lineman from New Jersey. So that's four. You got Jack Larson. Is there four or five? I don't know. There's so many commitments lately. It's hard to keep track of. Cam Williams is a receiver from Chicagoland. Very impressive at Notre Dame's Irish Invasion camp a few weeks back. Larson was very good at that camp. CJ Carr obviously was excellent, and Cam was very good. Another guy, Cam Williams, guys, he grew up a Michigan fan. He did not like there was no love for Notre Dame in that household. I was even told early in his recruitment, before even the Irish were looking at him, he was like, I don't really want to hear from Notre Dame. Now, maybe it's not, he didn't, I'm trying to remember what it was. Not that he didn't want to hear from Notre Dame, just wasn't really interested in that pitch. Like he seemed pretty set on Michigan, and Michigan was on him earlier than Notre Dame, but I like Notre Dame to land him tomorrow evening. So yeah, it just goes from bad doors for Michigan against Notre Dame on the recruiting trail.
It's amazing. Growing up in central Illinois, 90 minutes from Champaign, so many Illinois kids root for Michigan. They root for Notre Dame. They root for Wisconsin. Illinois has been so far off the radar for so many years. They're coming back a little bit with Bielema, but still, guys like Cam Williams, they're going elsewhere. They're leaving the state. And since we're talking about Notre Dame and Michigan, Charles Jagasaw, let's bring him into the conversation. He's from Rock Island, Illinois, an offensive tackle, a highly thought of offensive tackle, Mike. I know the On3 consensus believes he's a top 50 player in the country, one of the best offensive tackles in the nation. And look on the screen for those of you watching on our YouTube channel at Blue and Gold. Look at the top 2, Notre Dame and Michigan. And Mike, I see there's a 90.9% chance, according to the prediction machine, he's going to pick the Fighting Irish over Michigan.
The number 1 offensive tackle, according to On3 zone rankings. So clearly the folks at On3 think very highly of Jagasaw. I mean, his wrestling background, he just has a really high upside. And I think he could be a pretty dominant offensive tackle for one of those 2 schools. So, Darin, I've said a couple times now, it's commitment season right now. So you got Cam Williams is announcing between those 2 schools Wednesday. Got Charles Jagasaw picking between the 2 schools on Thursday. And then there's a few more prospects in the 2023 class. Rico Flores, a receiver from California. Micah Bell, a cornerback from Texas. And then Christian Gray, a cornerback from St. Louis. I'm pretty sure all those guys had Michigan offers. So I don't want to turn this into a Bash Michigan show. But again,
it's the facts.
It's an impressive run for Notre Dame over Jim Harbaugh's squad. But it's a pretty busy time for Notre Dame football recruiting.
Mike, there was a time where Michigan football was bringing out offensive lineman after offensive lineman to the National Football League. It was kind of the place to go. But honestly, and I'm not being biased, I'm not saying this because I have a green Notre Dame polo shirt on, but there's no comparison right now. If you're one of the best offensive linemen in the country and you're choosing between those 2, to me, it's a Mercedes-Benz and a Cadillac. Michigan's still a great place to go, but come on, Harry Hiestand, Notre Dame, what they've done the last 10 years, it's not even an argument.
I mean, yeah, if you want to give that from like a very black and white perspective, sure. But I mean, recruiting it's not black and white. It's relationships. I mean, the amount of factors that go into a decision, sure. So I like to push back against that line of thinking because it's not like if it's Notre Dame versus Stanford, it's, well, Stanford is maybe better academically, but Notre Dame, you get better football. Like, sure, but like there are many other factors that go into a decision why kids would pick Stanford over Notre Dame. So I do push back on that a little bit, but what you're saying is not incorrect, if that makes sense. Just again, because there's so many factors in the recruiting, location, looking at the depth chart, relationship with coaches, schematically, all that kind of stuff. But again, you're not wrong.